Disclaimer: the views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent. Listener discretion is advised. Dirty Sexy Nights in Paris, the 2002 release by the rock band Audiovent. It was a staple in my collection, maybe one of 5 albums I listened to at the time, and I listened to the hell out of it. You may remember it from the hit singles The Energy and Looking Down. And I gotta tell you, friends, Audiovent is poised to make a comeback, and I have Jason Boyd and Ben Einziger on the podcast today to talk about their history and talk about their future. A brand new single called Sleepless Machine drops October 20th, but today they are chatting with me. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Caught on the Mic. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're anything like me, you have a workout playlist, you'll be on the treadmill, you'll be on the elliptical, you're trying to shift into that extra gear, and the right song just comes on at the right time. For the longest period of time, I'd say 20 plus years, I have absolutely loved this band, Audiovent. And with me today is Ben Einziger and Jason Boyd from Audiovent. Guess what, friends? They are reunited. And they're about to release some music. We're going to talk a little bit about that. How are you guys doing tonight?
Fantastic.
Yeah, really good. Really good. Excited to talk to you.
I am so excited to have you guys on the show. Let me give you a little bit of time to introduce yourselves. So take it away.
My name is Jason Boyd. No.
Yes.
My name is Ben Einziger, and it's a pleasure to meet you, Mike. And I play the guitar. I'm a co-writer and producer in the band Audiovent.
My name is Jason Boyd, and I'm the singer and co-writer and co-producer in Audiovent as well. And we're having a damn good time being back. It's great.
I absolutely love that. I kid you not, one of my best friends sent me the shot from your Instagram, and it was just that picture of the drum set. And he's like, "Can you believe this shit?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh." I started freaking out immediately. So without further ado, let's kind of talk about the origin story of you guys forming the band. You guys formed as Vent in the mid-90s, late 90s?
We actually formed first as Tempest. I can take you through the litany of names we've had, actually.
Yes!
So we started first as a band called Tempest, and we were... essentially, it was just me and my drum and our first drummer, a guy named Greg. He was a kid back then; he wasn't a guy. And then my friend Shane. And all we knew was how to play Bad to the Bone. That's it. So we played Bad to the Bone like a million times. And then at my 13th birthday party, Paul, our bass player, he had really wanted to become my friend and come to the birthday party because it was going to be a big party and everyone was going to be there. It was great. We had great parties. And so he bought me the body count tape. You remember Ice T body count? Yeah, he bought me that tape, and I invited him to my birthday. And then the next morning, actually, my brother's band played that party. That was their first show ever, Incubus. They played that party. And the next morning, I was talking to Paul and his kid Shane, and we decided to start a band. And then, like a week later or something, Ben, when we were having like maybe our second rehearsal, Ben came with his brother Paul, stepbrother. And I think he was immediately in the band because he was the only one who knew how to play anything else. You know, he knew how to play Metallica. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was funny. Like I hadn't played guitar at all, and I actually started with piano, and then I decided I wanted to play guitar because everything that I was listening to is like metal. You know, like Pantera, Metallica, Megadeth. You know, like we were just listening to really heavy stuff, and I even got like sheet music for piano, and it just sounded like ridiculous. I was just like, "Oh, this is not the route for me at the time." Although I love piano, of course, but I picked up a guitar and had been playing for like a week, and I learned how to play like Fade to Black or One by Metallica, and that's all I could really play. And then we came in the room and they taught me how to play Bad to the Bone because that's all they could play.
Wasn't really teaching anything.
Yeah. And then we just started kind of writing, we started writing music with is like sort of uneducated and inexperienced as we were just having fun making kind of orchestrated noise, and it was a blast for us. We really, really enjoyed it. And we started writing songs. I feel like that day or maybe the next practice, we'd like finished one track called Why. And then it just started sort of, parlaying into future songs. And it just became more and more fun. Something we kept doing.
It became our outlet too. That was like, I mean, all the kids were I don't know, they were doing drugs and like getting in trouble and stuff like that. We were just rehearsing and writing songs like every weekend because it was the best time ever. We knew exactly what we wanted to do at that point.
Yeah.
It was great.
Not to throw ages on all of us because we're all about the same age, but approximately when was this in the 90s?
Well, I was 13, Ben, you were 14, so
92,
I think, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
The point I was kind of thinking about whenever you guys were talking about it, there was no better time than the 90s to be experimental with things.
Oh, it's great, man.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
I think about my early band days, and it was kind of the similar thing. It was just like, well, learn 3 or 4 chords. Let's write a song around it. We've got a song. Let's move on to the next one. And
yeah.
You don't know any barriers yet. You don't know any limitations yet. So it's all it is just stretching and playing. It's fun.
Right. Exactly.
We were also really fortunate to like grow up in the 90s, certainly in the 80s too. There's some really great music in the 80s, but I feel like the 90s for me was like my music, like when I was like discovering artists, it wasn't stuff that I learned from, like my older brother or from my parents, it was like, these are new bands that are like, I'm hearing on the radio and blowing my mind, like I'll never forget when Nirvana first came and I was out like skateboarding with my friend and we went inside to listen to just like hang out in his room and listen to music. And then all of a sudden Smells Like Teen Spirit came on. And I just remember it like so vividly, just being like, what the fuck is that?
Yes.
Like that was, and to me then, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, like all of those bands came out and we got to see most of them live. And it was just like, oh my God, being a 13, 14-year-old kid and having this just like, I don't know, it was just like it was such a like a sonic revelation. Like it was just, for me, it was so inspirational. And then to be able to use those influences into our band, like I think that was a really, really fun outlet. Is to like what Jason was saying, it was a really good time.
And the fact that MTV was alive and thriving at the time, like that made the visuals went with everything so well, and it made everything seem, I don't know. Music is an invisible art. I like to think about it as that.
Yeah.
So when you put visuals to it, all of a sudden it becomes something else. And so I don't know. Music videos they really changed me a long time ago too.
There's a great quote that says, "If paintings decorate space, music decorates time."
Oh, that's nice. I like that.
And
the timeless ones, they're decorating your existence forever. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And to kind of bring this point for full circle, I have struggled with the concept of feeling nostalgic about the 90s until like the last year. And for some odd reason, I don't know if it's circadian rhythms or what, like the nostalgia for the 90s has hit like a freight train recently.
Oh, absolutely, man. That's one of the reasons why we're excited to be coming back. I mean, it's not like we were in the 90s when we were, like more out, but still, that's kind of where our heart is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where musically, that's where we got inspired for the first time, like Ben was saying.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think my catalyst was the fact that my 16-year-old daughter started singing in a band this year, and she covered No Doubt's Spiderwebs, and I was just like, whoa, what?
That is awesome.
That's amazing.
That's so cool. And it's so wild that that's like considered a classic rock tune now.
Right, I know. I know. The minute Guns N' Roses started getting played on classic rock radio, I started to sweat a little. Now that Nirvana is getting played on classic rock radio, I'm sweating even more. So
Speaking of which, it's crazy. There's all these bands are coming out with new bands from like our youth are coming out with new records now.
Yes.
Guns N' Roses just put a song out. Well, it's the Stones. I really like a new Stones song too, actually.
Yeah, I do too. Moving forward with the story about how the band got going. So you guys started writing songs, putting things together. Like, when did it really start gelling for you guys?
I mean, it's interesting because we never really learned our instruments all that well, like on our own. Like I wasn't a kid that like sat and practiced soloing for hours a day and really paid attention to like the guitar savants. I was just listening to songwriters and getting inspiration from like sort of beautiful chaos and sound, and we just kind of learned how to be players in a band. Like it's like we just kept playing together, and we'd spend hours in blistering hot garages during summertime, and we just hone in on these songs. And I feel like we wouldn't stop listening to our own music, and it's not to sound like we thought we were amazing or anything. It was just we were so inspired by this group of people coming together and making this orchestrated noise together, and it was just
so stoked on what we wrote, definitely.
Yeah. And we just wanted to keep playing and play live, and we would play parties, we would play like school functions, like they have like a school cabaret show at Calabasas High School, and we would play that. And we had,
remember Spaghetti Night? There's a video of this, by the way, we're going to find. It was a mosh pit at our school, and like was it in the quad or something, or in the theater? I don't remember where it was.
Yeah.
But the teachers didn't know what to do, so they just stood back. But there's like an actual pit going on. It's amazing.
But like our friends were very supportive, like when we play shows at like the Roxy or Whiskey and Troubadour, like a majority of our high school and also neighboring high schools would come. And then it got to a point when, I think this might answer your question more directly, is there became a point where we started looking out in the audience and not recognizing people. And that was like, whoa, like we were selling out venues, and I'd see like 3 of my friends there. And I'd be like, who are all these people? And I'd look at our mailing list, and it was all these people from all over, basically San Fernando Valley, all the way to, Los Angeles and Long Beach. There were people that kind of came from all over the place. And that's when I was like, wow, this thing is like starting to become, something that, we can't even control. It's just people are enjoying it, I guess. Hopefully.
Yeah. And also when you looked out and you saw people you didn't recognize and they were singing the song with you.
Yeah.
The first time that happened when we were teenagers, it was so weird, because it's like you felt like a regular, everyone was just felt like the same people, same type of people. So it was interesting that they looked at you differently, and they listened to your music on their own. It's like, we just made this, like we're just high school kids.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And I still feel that way, like when people.
It is so weird when someone likes it. Yeah.
You liked our band. I'm like, you did? Like, like always very, very grateful to people that, appreciated the art that we made then. And, hopefully we'll appreciate
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully appreciate the new stuff.
Yeah. Culminating all of this was your first release, Papa's Dojo. As guys that were just kind of navigating, learning your instruments, being in a band, writing songs for the first time, what was it like recording that set of songs the first time around? Because Papa's Dojo kind of lent itself to your major label debut as well, right?
That it did, yeah.
So that one, we'd gotten, like, our earlier music was sort of I guess abstract. It wasn't it didn't have any sort of cookie cutter or architecture, sonic architecture to it that felt like a pop song architecture, meaning, here's your verses, here's your pre-chorus, here's your chorus. We were just making parts,
just playing whatever we liked. Yeah,
it was kind of musically schizophrenic. And I feel like when we got to Papa's Dojo, we started really paying attention to making sure, does this feel cohesive? Do we have a sound? Because the earlier stuff, and I don't know if you've heard it, but like, we didn't know if we were a ska band, a funk band, a metal band. Like, we were screaming. Like, we would have our friend come up on stage. What's that? Yeah, Jason rapped a little bit. Even I rapped on something which was ridiculous.
Oh yeah, we thought about that the other day.
I think all of us have a rapper in our closet.
And I love rap, but you just don't want to hear me rap. Like it's just
right.
Not a good look for me. But so I think we were getting more cohesive at that time. We'd also I guess we probably should have gotten a keyboard player, but we just didn't have one. We purchased a keyboard because we wanted to hear some synth colors into our music, and also like maybe some drum type synths. So when we went into the studio, our drummer at the time, Jamin, he had a relationship he was helping this company who was like a publishing company, a smaller publishing company. And they had this little studio in the back, and this guy CJ, who we knew, who had we'd worked with at 4th Street Recording Studio, was working with them and doing albums, and we got a really great like day rate to go in there. And I remember it was really fun. We just, we put all these songs together, and we were all really excited about it. And I remember Jason went in and like knocked out like 8 of them in one day. Like, it was insane. It's like sometimes like watching singers, especially Jason, it's like, he'll have his good days and he'll have his days where he's like, he has to like warm up a little bit. But like once he's in that like zone, that like matrix zone, he just goes, and it's just like, oh, that was great. That was great. That was great. That was great. Go, go, go. And I remember on that, like, it was so fast. It was like insane how quickly, especially he worked his parts out. But I remember we were all really proud of it. I think, at least speaking for myself, I was very proud of it. And it was like the first time we'd finished like a cohesive album, and even that one has like kind of a little bit all over the place. And I'm sure, and even the stuff we're doing now is a little bit all over the place, because we never want to be like,
Definitely
we don't ever want to be in like a mold, of what we are. But hopefully the sound that we've made now, I'd say, is more cohesive, even though it enters a variety of like sonic spectrums. So
I think it is. That's something that I've taken from it so far with everything we've written. It all of it sounds different, but it all sounds like us to me. So I can hear you and I in there. So.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
You don't want to lose your basic identity, obviously.
No.
So let's, flying through the origin story, let's get to your major label signing. You sign with Atlantic Records. You start recording. Through your recording process, you realize the songs that you had on Papa's Dojo might be the way to go with your major label debut. So let's get to that major label debut and talk a little bit about that.
I think the decision to use those songs, did that come a little bit later, Ben? Did that come like when we were actually...
I think what happened is, at the time that we got a record deal, Jamin, our drummer, was very influential, as Jason and myself are. I'd say like us three, Paul was pretty much like, let's just roll with whatever we all came up with as the bassist. And, me, Jason, and Jamin were all really obviously opinionated about what we liked, what we didn't like. And Jamin, I think, had a very, very strong opinion about the direction of where he wanted the music to go. And I think what I was doing musically wasn't necessarily what he was liking in terms of where he wanted the band to go. And this is just obviously my point of view, and I don't know if this agrees or disagrees with Jason's point of view, but we started trying to write, and I felt like I was trying to, at first, make music that would sort of, satiate his appetite, what he was looking to achieve.
Right.
And at the same time, it didn't really feel like what I do. It sort of felt like I was writing for like somebody else was playing my guitar. It didn't feel like what I would naturally write. And I think our record label, when they first heard some of the stuff we were doing, remember Jay, like I never wanted you to do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm remembering some of this stuff now.
Like,
yeah,
I remember
we wrote a lot of music, but none of it was right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember our A&R guy came in, and he was just like, he just was so confused by it, because, he signed us based on Papa's Dojo, which was like, we were like an alternative kind of hard rock band. And we were writing songs that kind of felt a little more like 80s. And it seemed a bit incongruous with what we were trying to do initially, or what he thought we were going to do. And so we were writing, and it just felt like we were kind of banging our heads. At least I felt like I was banging my head against the wall. And at the same time, I would also write like certain things that I liked, like one of my favorite songs on Dirty Sexy Nights in Paris was Rain. I really, really liked that song. And that was one that, like, I remember, like, it took a while for it to sort of pass through the Audiovent filter of heads, but like eventually we got there and we made it work. And then, the energy also kind of came out of a lot of like banging our heads against the wall, but finally started sort of identifying, somewhat of a sound. But at the same time, it was so hard to write new music that we kind of had to go back and reimagine some of the old songs. I think we were like, well, those are great. We can make them greater in a studio versus being like, fuck, here's the chance for us to write like 30 new songs in the next 12, like 2 months, 3 months, and like see if we can beat every song from Papa's Dojo. I just think we couldn't. That was my perspective, but I just think we couldn't do it. So we just reimagined some songs off that.
Man, when you mentioned Rain, okay, so I have a small list of songs. The non-single Audiovent songs that I absolutely love: Gravity, Rain, One Small Choice, and Sweet Frustration. Love all 4 of those songs. And whenever people ask me, I'm like, okay, yeah, you've heard The Energy. It's awesome. Let's listen to Gravity, listen to Rain, check out these songs too. Like, I absolutely love that album. And it came out June 4th, 2002. And I've got a little anecdote to share with you guys that's pretty hilarious. So I was playing in a band at the time, and we were doing shows all over the Midwest. We drove from Omaha, Nebraska down to St. Louis to do a show. A month before, Nelly's Hot in Here came on, and I'm in St. Louis, and there wasn't a radio station that wasn't playing the new Nelly song at all. Like, you turn it to the alt rock station, they're playing Nelly's song. Like,
you're bringing back so many memories, man. Yeah.
I know. So they got to embrace their hometown guy. So we literally on the road purchased Dirty Sexy Nights in Paris, and we listened to the shit out of that album while we were in St. Louis doing this little mini tour thing throughout the Midwest. And that was the moment. That was the catalyst. And it was, I think, late June. I don't think the album had been out a full month yet. And that was the catalyst to make my band that I was in at the time fall in love with your band. So
that's so cool. I love that you have that connection, that experience connection with it. Because that, I mean, you'll have that the rest of your life too. When you listen to certain songs, I'm sure you have like memories of being, were you in a van or something? Like,
oh yeah. We were in this big old Suburban that we used to call the Powerball Express, with this homemade trailer chock full of our gear. Just homemade trailer? Oh yeah. Somebody took an old truck bed and made a trailer out of it and like built a surround. I mean, come on, we're in the Midwest, man. There's farms all over the place.
But it held up, right?
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. Wow.
Absolutely. And that same summer, you guys did a radio station festival in Omaha, and I think it was on, I swear to you, the absolute hottest day of the year. It was past 100 degrees.
I remember it was like an outdoor shed. I remember that.
Yes.
I remember that festival.
Oh, I think I remember that too, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think I ended up seeing you guys play 3 different times that year. So
no way.
Nice. That's awesome, dude.
So you're on the campaign for Dirty Sexy Nights in Paris. You're doing tours with like Saliva, Theory of a Dead Man. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys did like a club tour with the Used before they became big at one point in time, didn't you?
We did. Yeah, we did. Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. That was our first tour actually. After we finished our album, we went out with this band called Pressure 445, which is some guys that we knew from. We went to school up in Santa Barbara for a little bit, and all those guys, like one of the guitarists was like in the same dorm that I was in my first year in college, and so we knew them, and then we met the Used guys, and it was just a blast. We were all in vans. Nobody had any egos, which was awesome. And
it's kind of chaos, actually.
Yeah, sheer chaos. And those guys were hilarious because they were super wild, like, especially Bert,
Yeah, Bert, the singer. Oh my God, Ben, we just talked about this recently, but Bert used to come out on stage, and there'd be a certain point in their set, like in the middle of their set, where there'd be like a breakdown, like the drums are, they're making like a vibe, and Bert just goes up to the front with his mic and just starts heaving, and he ends up throwing up. And he did it I think he did it every show, but he threw up. And there was one time I forget, Ben, remember where we were when this happened with the 2 girls? I don't know. There was no one there except there was two girls in the front row, like teenagers, standing there all like just watching Bert, like, it's a crazy show. Oh my God, it's the craziest thing I've ever seen. And he throws up on them.
Oh, no.
He puked on the 2 teenage girls. I guarantee they'll never forget that. It was amazing. It was disgusting, and yeah.
I wanted to confirm that because I saw you guys on that tour too, because I saw you at the Ranch Bowl in Omaha, Nebraska too. So,
Oh, that's
nice.
awesome.
yeah.
Is the Ranch Bowl, is that, oh, it's the bowling alley.
Yeah, not anymore. It's a Walmart.
Oh, no way. So I
Yeah.
remember that. I remember playing you go in that bowling alley, and there was a little room to the left. It had like
Oh my gosh.
large stage too. But yeah, that tour was insane. I remember there were some places. I remember we played a show in Wichita, Kansas somewhere, and it was like nuts. Like I remember there was like maybe, some of the shows, like Jason said, there'd be like 2 people there, and then some shows there'd be like 500 people going completely apeshit for every band. But yeah, that was a really, really great time for sure.
Gosh, man, it was, and the funny thing is you kind of reflect upon it, and it almost feels like yesterday, and it's hard to imagine that it's been 20 years since then.
It's wild.
So how are you guys dealing with that? Like, how do you guys deal with age whenever 2003 feels like 5 years ago, but it was actually 20 years ago?
I mean, I don't know. It's weird. Time is especially nowadays, I have a funny relationship with time itself and everything because I still feel like the same exact person.
Yeah.
I feel a lot smarter and a lot more like lived, and I understand a lot more what's going on. Especially I understand myself a lot more. I understand how to make music better, how to make art better, how to actually translate what's going on in my brain better into the world. But besides that, it still feels the same. It's weird. And I still see Ben as like, I don't know. It's like no time has passed really for me. Even the time we spent apart, Ben, you and I, like when we weren't talking, I don't even remember that being there. I feel like no time was lost. It's weird.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, Ben. Sorry.
I was just gonna say it's a really weird thought to know in my mind when I want to say something was like 5 years ago, and I was like, actually, it was 23 years ago. You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh, remember when we went to and did this thing at this specific location, whatever it was, and I'm like, in my mind, it's like it feels like 5 years ago. I cannot believe that we've basically, like when we did Audiovent, I'm double the age that I was. That we've done a double lap in life, from where we were when we were playing those shows in Omaha, Nebraska, and it's like, to me, like that time is just so unbelievable. Because to Jason's point, I feel the same. Maybe my body hurts a little more. I just have more responsibilities. I have kids now. It's like I have a whole family, and it's a new chapter, but at the same time I feel like myself, and like when Jason and I are creating, that same sort of fire or that inspirational sort of appeal presents itself the same way it did when we were 14 screwing around in a garage playing music.
What's funny is it almost took the 20 years for us to come around and realize that we don't have to abide by any rules when we're making art. We got back to the place where when we first started. In reality, we're just we're a little wiser, we're a little better at what we do. Hopefully, a lot better at what we do. But,
yeah. Do you think the state of the industry has also had an influence on that too? Because I feel like 20 years ago there was a certain structure that bands and artists had to fit themselves into, but now it's almost like the Wild West, where you could just kind of create again for the sake of creation.
Yeah, I mean it's easier in the sense of there's more control at your fingertips. It's harder in the sense that there's more access for everyone to do it. So it can be harder to get yourself heard. To really get your art out there.
I think for me, like in terms of art, when I was in my 20s, you're trying to prove yourself. I was trying to prove myself, whether I knew it or not. I felt like, oh, I could be on stage, like living out my dream. That's going to be so cool. And like, I wanted to be on the radio. I wanted to sell a gazillion albums. Not to say I wouldn't want that now, but that's not a driving force for me at all. Like what drives me is the art, and that's it. And, like I think we were talking earlier, Mike, about that we're going to be releasing a song. The first song we're going to be releasing is not, it's a rather long song, and it's not at all a standard sort of architecture, like a pop architecture or rock architecture that you'd hear on the radio. And for this entire album of music that we've been making, we could care less about creating anything that's gonna, is it too long? Oh, maybe we need to trim the fat off the song because, radio or whoever or playlists won't add it unless it's 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Or 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Like I think the Harry Styles album, like every song on it is like 2 minutes and 20 seconds. And I actually like the album, but it's like, we just could care less about that. And I really love it. And that we do care less about it. And I think that's freeing because there's no ego in this at all. Like at least for me, I just feel like I want to make the best art that we can make together, and let's just make Sonic Odysseys, as many of them as we can.
Yes. And that kind of lends to my next question, and kind of like starting to put the past in the pasture. 2003, you guys started working on a second album. But 2003, late 2003, early 2004, Atlantic and Elektra consolidated. Were you guys caught in the crossfire of that consolidation?
No, it's not that. I don't want to answer that question.
Yeah.
Yes, we were. And Ben, correct me if anything's wrong here, but this was my memory of it. Our A&R guy was fired, and he was our representative there. He was our homie at the label, basically, and they put us with a hip hop guy that didn't really like our band, anyways. So things didn't work out from that point on, and we eventually just had to ask to be released from our contract, and there was a deal made, and we did. So
because I remember when that happened, and I never knew if it had officially impacted you guys or not at the time. But I know it like Third Eye Blind and a couple other bands that were dropped, and you're like, these guys had monster albums just 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
And then, that consolidation happened. So explain to me, with all of this that happened, what was the whole name change to Nigel, the lineup change? Was that kind of a react to the record label situation, or was that a metamorphosis of your sound at the time?
So we hadn't parted ways with Atlantic yet when we did Nigel. So this is twofold. We have to take some responsibility for the decisions we made too, because we became a different band than, Atlantic had signed. Jason and I, we parted ways with Jamin,
right,
for the same reasons, that I mentioned earlier, in terms of him wanting a specific direction, which, of course he's entitled to what he wants to do. And there's no shame in him wanting the sound that he wanted to go after. And of course, as we got older, we became more opinionated. It was our second record. We'd sold almost 150,000 albums on Dirty Sexy Nights in Paris. And everybody kind of, we were a bit more, I'd say, rigid in terms of what we wanted to do. And it just wasn't working out with Jamin. And at that time, so we parted ways with him. And then that's when we met your friend Ryland. And I'd met Ryland through my a few friends that played in the band Phantom Planet and some of the Maroon 5 guys, and just loved him. I just loved like his energy. He was such a calming, human. He just practiced all day. He loved music. But Jason and I at that time, during Dirty Sexy Nights in Paris, for most of that writing, we didn't smoke any pot. Like we would drink, but that was about it. Like we barely, like I would smoke a weed every once in a while, but I don't think Jason ever did until we were like towards the end of Dirty Sexy Nights in Paris. Then you started smoking a little bit.
I was 21. I think may have been on my 21st birthday. I don't know. We were in the studio, and they kind of peer pressured me, and I did it, and that's on video as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry that I peer pressured you.
No, I mean it's fine. I'm a dedicated stoner now, so it's fine.
Yeah. But musically, we just like, we were into different things, and we kind of wanted to be as far away from Dirty Sexy Nights in Paris. I think just like the weed was making us want to be more cerebral with the music, instead of like having this kind of like octane, really heavy driving power chord, written songs. We wanted it to be more melodic and more just in terms of music, not just the vocals, and just sort of painting with different colors. But in that, we just became in my opinion, I don't know if you agree, Jay, tell me if you agree, but like, I just feel like we had no idea who we were during
No,
that
we were
time.
kind of unrecognizable. We were
Yeah.
just I purposely just stopped singing the way I was singing. I purposely was
Yeah.
just trying to sing more like my regular, like my speaking voice.
Yeah.
I was like listening to a lot of Neil Young and just things that were more like a real person's voice, not this character that I'd sort of accidentally created in my youth that was just part of my voice. But it didn't work out because I sounded like shit. I honestly just sounded like shit. And it's fine. I mean, we made some fun stuff. It was cool and everything. We had a fun time.
Yeah.
We were in a house in Topanga that Atlantic rented us, and it was a good time, great memories of that and everything. But that was also the beginning of the end for us at the time too.
Yeah. And that's where I was going next. From the 30,000 mile away view, it felt like you guys came out at a really interesting time in the industry because there was a huge musical title shift happening at that point in time. Like nu metal was on the decline, the pop punk stuff was starting to rise up, the indie rock was starting to rise up a little bit more, and you guys were kind of like dead center. You're a straightforward rock band. Like, not even like a post-grunge type rock band. You guys were just a rock band in a time where rock bands were a rarity. I've often made the argument about both Audiovent and one of my other favorite bands, a band called Letter Kills from Temecula, that if your album had come out maybe a year earlier or a year later, like, it would have been an absolute fucking monster.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I think about things from the perspective of marketing. So it's just, I don't know.
I think you're right. I remember really vividly remembering, like, that was like when the Hives and the Vines and all the bands that like were coming out that were like that indie explosion, and I liked some of that stuff, but I could see, to your point, the title change happening. And, all the bands that we toured with didn't really fit the vibe of who we were either, like
they weren't even bands that we really listened to, right?
Yeah, like I was trying to think about like who we, the only bands that like I really felt like we identified with that we toured with was like when we did the Used tour, like other than that, like it was fun going on tour with Bush, and I think their fans kind of liked us, like that was the tour after that band. But then we were touring with bands like Saliva, and like, we're not, I mean, nice guys, but I'm not a fan of the music that that band did. And I never was. They were always really nice to us and super, super sweet people, as most bands that we toured with were really sweet. But, we were either playing with too heavy a music, like where it's like we're playing with, like we did a Loco Bazooka tour, and like, it was a really intense tour. And some shows, like, I'd have like 8 people sticking their middle finger in my face, or the entire crowd walks away to go see like what Mushroom Head is doing at the stage right next to us. And then other shows, there'd be like 2,000 people, 6,000 people jumping up and down, going crazy. But I think we kind of didn't really find the bands that like, and the bands that we could kind of pair up with, that
the world we could live in on tour, basically.
That would like.
If your album had dropped a year earlier, it would have been nice seeing you guys with Hoobastank and your brothers and Incubus on that tour, because that you guys would have fit that almost perfectly. Well, perfectly.
Totally. Well, I remember we did a tour. So this is Jason and I were talking about this the other day. Like, we were just in the middle of our studio. We probably had like 3 songs left to do, and I get a phone call from my brother, and he's like, "Yeah, we want to take you. Me and Brandon had talked about it. We want to take you guys out to Europe on our like 6 weeks tour." And we really wanted to go, but our label, for some fucking stupid reason, like didn't want us to do it. And it's like, it would have been not only like from like a business perspective, really awesome just to have our bands, but just from like a familial, really bonding, amazing
morale.
Bonding. Yeah, it's like it would have just been so fun to like be like a family tour, and they were already quite, massive in Europe, so that would have been, I think, a really good jumpstart for us. But we did do one show. There was a show that I think they filmed their out that, what was that video? Can't remember the name of it, but
I don't remember either.
they filmed a live video at the Bakersfield Centennial Garden for one of their songs, and they asked us to open, and Hoobastank played also. And it was like, I remember it was the first time we played in arena, and we'd gone from playing like maybe the biggest show like with like 800 people to then playing in front of, I think it held probably like 15,000, and there were maybe 10,000 when we opened up. And it was the most fucking crazy thing to be playing in front of that many people. And also my brother at the time, I didn't have a guitar tech because I just hadn't had one yet, and we hadn't really toured yet, like consistently. My brother was my tech. He had a little hood on his head, and nobody realized that he was handing me my guitars, and like my amp cut out one time, and he's up there trying to fix it. And little did anybody know there was like 15,000 people to see them play. So that was pretty cool. But I remember after we played, we sold, I want to say like 1,200 CDs that night. And we went and did our own show in Bakersfield like 4 months later, and it was sold out in a day. Like, it was just like, it just made sense that like our sounds could go well together with us, Hoobastank and Incubus. And it was really, really fun. It felt really good too.
Yep. Just lending to that marketing mindset, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey man, any tips you got for us? Let us know. We're coming back out again.
Yeah.
Neither of us are great at that just yet, but we're figuring it out.
Yeah.
So the band wrapped up about 2003, 2004. You guys got back together for the first time in 2019. What was the catalyst for your reunion?
It was an offer to go on tour with Hoobastank. Actually, they were going back out again, and they offered us some dates, and then immediately called me, and I'm just like, hell yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun, man. Like, let's try it, let's do it. And it wasn't going to work with Jamin, so we got Shane in there. That's our drummer now, and Ben was friends with Shane already, and so we started rehearsing for that, and got all excited again, got the butterflies back about making music again and stuff. It felt good. And then that tour got canceled. So we decided to book some of our own shows, which we did. We booked two nights at the Viper Room, and two shows in Arizona, one show. Yeah, I can't remember. But those were all so fun, sold out, like just people so stoked, coming from all over the place too. And it was a blast. It really, really was. I cannot wait to play the new material for everyone, because it's like where we are now versus playing songs of where we were when we were 20, 21 years old. So it's gonna be great.
So talking about the title shift of where things have gone from when the band initially broke up, or actually broke through, then broke up, and to that reunion, then obviously social media being the biggest leveling apparatus out there.
Yeah.
How do you view presenting new art now differently than what you did back then?
Yes, that's a good question. That's what we're kind of trying to figure out now. We obviously see like trends in what people are doing, and how to get people to sort of get access to your art, or to be kind of attracted to your art. How do we draw attention to what we're doing? And the challenge for us is, like, we'd sold quite a large amount of albums back then, 20 years ago. And I know, just from my limited knowledge, like on Spotify, we have almost, I think, around 30,000 active listeners a month. I don't even know what it's like on Apple, but if you look at our Instagram, which I'm sure you've seen, we've talked on Instagram, is we only have about just under 2,000 people that really have direct access. And then Jason has his followers, and I have my followers on Instagram, but like, I don't really know how to connect to all the people that might not know that we're a band, because clearly there are a lot of them that are out there. Maybe some are interested, maybe some are not. But
either way, people got to be curious. At least if they knew who we were back then, they'd be like, okay, all right, what are you doing now? Like, how much do you suck? Yes. I want to hear how much you suck. Even if they hate listen, I don't care. Listen,
no matter what we do, no matter what our sounds are, you're going to have some people that are just like, wish it sounded like the old shit. Because if you're hard, you're going to go hard. You go all the way. You don't stop.
You don't stop. Little inside joke there, but yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
you're obviously playing by your own rules really definitively with this new music. Before we started recording, Ben, you were kind of telling me that you're going to take a slow release approach with this new album, like maybe do it a song at a time, which I think is ingenious, because if you're paying attention to the trends, that's pretty much what everybody is doing now. Like,
yeah.
So do you guys still consider things in terms of a full collective of songs? Like ritualistically, we open up the vinyl, we put it on the record player,
right.
We listen to side A, we flip it over and listen to side B. But that trend has obviously changed since streaming. Do you still consider that when trying to piece together your material?
Yeah, in a way, yes. I mean, I still have the fantasy of having, especially this batch of songs that we're doing on vinyl, and it does everything we've written so far is beautiful, unique, and special in its own way, and it all together absolutely does tell a story, because especially just from a writing perspective, from the lyrically, it's all pulled from my journals, and it's all part of a time period. So it all really does tell a story. There's the pandemic in there. There's a breakup. There's all. That's what kind of inspired us to get back together too. By the way, start writing this record, just because I went through a breakup and I had all this writing, and I'm just like, now's the time. Now's the time. We got to do this. I got the juice in me. I got that bad juice in me right now. I got to get it out. So
it'll be interesting to see when we're done. I think we have 7 songs, right, Jay? Is that about right?
Yeah.
7.
Yeah.
And out of that batch, if we're just going to keep writing, because I have a company called Kaya, and we do music for all types of media, and we basically have this studio here that we can use all the time, anytime we want. Like, I'm a little sick, otherwise Jason would be over. Well, Jason's working on our video right now, but we would be over here and we can work anytime we want, which is awesome. So the idea is, if 7 songs summarizes the entire story, cool. If it doesn't summarize it, me and Jason might decide to write a few more and add to the album. And then there's going to probably be a cutoff time, unless we just have one album that goes for the next 10 years, and we just keep adding to and
it ends up just on a collection.
Yeah. And it's just like this, which is sort of what any band does. It's just, but maybe we'll be done with this album at 7. We'll start a new one afterwards. But the idea for us is just to keep doing this until it's not fun anymore, until we don't like it anymore. And at the moment, I feel like Jason and my sort of musical chemistry is better than it's ever been, ever, by 100%. Far.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. So that brings up another good point. What influences you now versus what influenced you the first time around?
I think just pure authenticity, not really looking to what other bands are doing or what we think is going to be more successful, or what we think is going to. There's just no thought process in there about anything other than let's just let ourselves go and make the music that feels real and honest. Like I've said this to Jason in the past before. When we first started, Jason used to just write lyrics out of his journal. And when we first started the band, it would just be lyrics, there was lyrics, right, about your parents' divorce and stuff. It was sad.
That was the first song, yeah.
And it felt very honest. And as we got into more commercial music making, and with Audiovent, Dirty Sexy Nights in Paris, which I'm still very proud of a lot of the stuff that's on there, I think some of it got a bit watered down, just musically, lyrically, everythingly, got a little bit watered down because of, the pressures that we were feeling, what we were hoping to achieve, etc. And I think this has been a really big breath of fresh air for me, because when Jason and I sat down, Jason, we started doing it the old way, where we would make the music really cool, and then we'd be focusing on the melody. Is the melody catchy enough? Is it good enough, the melody? And then we would be banging our head against the wall, because then we tried to add lyrics, and it was trying to fit these cinder blocks of words that might have sounded cool and maybe had some sort of abstract meaning. And I remember there was like a moment when Jason and I were sitting down, he was like, I have all these like journals, but they're not necessarily like all lyrics. They're just like journal entries. And Jason's like journals is like, he's like a madman when he writes. It's really interesting. It's super visceral. And he sort of writes in analogies and images. And it's really, really like inspiring for me to hear it. So luckily he was cool with me opening up his journal and like finding moments that I was like, dude, sing that melody that we were just playing with, but with these words. And I remember all of a sudden it was like, oh, okay, the melody has a fucking meaning. And now the song feels either intense or it feels more beautiful because it's like, you can write melodies for days and if like the words don't mean anything or they just are abstractions that you can sort of apply meaning to me, it just doesn't do what his lyrics have now done for these songs.
That's amazing.
Well, now it's more authentic. Now it's actually coming from a very real place, which is exactly what I wanted when we started back up again. Just like, okay, it's got to come from a real place. That's why it's like, I should went through this breakup. Let's use this. Let's use this.
We use.
So when does the first song drop?
We don't have a complete set date. It'll be very soon. Within the next maybe, I don't know, 3 weeks or so, 2 weeks, something like that. But I'm finishing up the video right now, and we're going to start doing probably clips of the video with so people can start getting a little taste of what's going on. And yeah, we'll release a date and count down to that date.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a song called Sleepless Machine. That's finished. But we want to have the visual part, and Jason's been doing a really good job on creating the video for it. Him and his cousin Robin.
Robin Chilton, amazing cinematographer, DP.
That's amazing.
And he's also shooting a documentary on us too right now. He's been capturing the entire recording process and our rehearsals and stuff, and then he shot the footage for the video and then gave me a cut, and then I cut into his cut and made a deeper cut, and threw on some special futuristic elements that I'm sure everyone will recognize, but hopefully a few people will be a little like surprised at what the fuck it even is. So I'm still trying to figure out what the fuck it even is. So.
That's awesome. So real quick, what's one artist on each of your playlists that's getting you excited right now?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I have to think about that.
Do you guys have like seasons where you like have seasons where you're into a certain style or certain musician and then you move on to the next one?
I mean, I'm the same way with music as I am with like TV shows and my favorite movies and stuff like that. I will definitely go through phases where I can listen to a certain song over and over and over again, or I can watch a TV show over and over again, that kind of thing. Right now, I mean, all I'm thinking of right now is the newer stuff that's come out. The only thing that's stuck in my head right now is that new Stone song, and it's not even the best thing I've ever heard, but I like it. It's cool to hear them still making music at like 80 years old. I mean, my dad's 88, and I can't picture him writing a song anyways. But
for me, I really like Kevin Parker's stuff. I really like Tame Impala. I think
Tame Impala's great.
That they do it where he records it and produces it all himself, and I think that's something that we're going for on our end too, like not having any label, not having any. I mean, he has a label obviously, but like I just think the music, that the choices he makes, the sonic textures he uses, how every element just feels warm and cool and different, a little bit left to center. I just love his songwriting and how everything sounds. So for me, that's inspiring, and it also inspires us, I think, or me to want to do this on our own. Jason and I producing and composing all of this. We started doing this in my home studio, which is like a small 13 by 12 little room, and using, we didn't have a drummer in the room. Jason knows how to play drums, but when we first started writing, we were just, programming beats and basically laying out the blueprint for all of the songs that we're doing. And now we have a studio that we can record live drums anytime, and it sounds like a record, like it's
incredible.
So
it's incredible.
hopefully our record will sound as cool as, Tame Impala's sounds to me, to other people. Because I think what the sounds we're getting right now for the Audiovent stuff are, I think, really interesting.
That's awesome. So my wrap-up question that I ask all of my guests, because I love everybody's answer. So you guys take your turns, answer it one at a time. But what is your advice, given everything that you've learned throughout your career and just through your life? What is your advice for making the world a better place tomorrow than it was today?
Just in general, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I would say don't react right away to everything. Take a beat. Don't be afraid to take a beat sometimes even when you want to react, because I feel like everything is so volatile right now, just in general. And I think if people stopped and just took a second and actually thought about what the consequences of what was about to come out of their mouth or out of their fists will be. So I know it's helped me greatly. I'm really very into therapy, so that's also another thing. If talk to someone, talk to anyone,
Love it.
Yeah.
That's a good answer, Jay.
Thank you.
My thoughts would be, don't share your candle with somebody that's going to blow it out.
Yes.
I think, it's really important. I think in my 20s and 30s, I found myself being close or friends with people that might have been really talented, but when you were doing really well, they were silently or passive aggressively wishing you weren't doing well. And find the people that cheer you on when you're doing well, and also try to lift you up when you're falling down, and do the same for the people that do that for you. And
absolutely
will breed positivity. That's my advice.
I absolutely love that. I tell you what, guys, I hope it is somewhere within your plans to hit the road again. I'm glad we got to meet and got to know each other and spent the last hour together. It has meant the world to me. If you do cross through the Midwest at any point in time, I want you both to know you guys have a seat at my table. Like, I'd love to hang out in the real world. It has been nothing short of a pleasure getting to have this conversation with you guys. The world is a much better place with you guys in it.
Thank you so much, man. We feel the same way about you. That's fantastic, and we definitely will. When we come through Lincoln, we'll sit down at your table, and hopefully there'll be something on the table. Or we could sit on your table. I don't know. We could do sit Indian style.
Probably just hang out in the backyard with the fire pit going and tell stories.
That's great. Oh, I love it. My favorite thing to do, tell stories.
Once again, I want to thank my new friends, Jason and Ben, for doing the show. Go listen to Audiovent right now. Find them on your favorite streaming platform. Go to YouTube, crack open your old CD wallet, and take a listen to Dirty Sexy Nights in Paris. I have faith that this new music is going to be just as good, if not better, because age does great things for all of us. Find them on Instagram and give them a follow. And while you are being generous with the follows, make sure you follow Caught on the Mic on all social media platforms. Check me out, www.caughtonthemic.com. October 20th, new Audiovent. Check it out. This has been Caught on the Mic with Michael Clark. I'm Michael Clark. Until next time, thank you.